The first real marquee SEC game of the SEC conference schedule takes place on Saturday with Kentucky going to Gainesville to take on Florida. That's Connor Hope. I'm Brian Rauf, both of Heat Check CBB here on the Sleepers Media YouTube channel to break this game down. And Connor, we know what to expect from Kentucky at this point in the season. 2 months in, they are perhaps the most exciting team in the country. They have legitimate Final Four expectations. We don't know as much about Florida, though. Florida has some good wins. Has also fallen short in a couple of games and missed out on some opportunities. This, though, is their biggest opportunity to make a major statement that they are the team that can have the breakthrough that we thought they might be able to this season. I think this is a big spot for them. So going into this game from a Florida standpoint, how are you looking at the Gators?
Yeah, I mean, this is a program that under Todd Golden, we know they don't lose to bad teams. Like, I don't think Florida's had a single loss outside the top 90 on KenPom in the 2 years that Todd Golden has been there. They don't lose to bad teams. They have 2-3 good wins since he got there. Like, it's very much, we beat who we're supposed to beat. We lose to who we're supposed to lose to, with the exception of a win against Tennessee last year. That's how Florida's been. And this is one of those games where you're playing at home at the start of SEC play against a Kentucky team that, while it's really talented, is much less experienced than you are throughout the roster. I understand Kentucky has a couple of pieces that are as experienced as the Florida roster, but I mean, the Florida roster just up and down has guys who have been there, done that, whether they're sophomores, juniors, seniors. They've been there, done that, and they know how to win games. This is the game where if Florida can win this, you start to buy into them as not like as a championship contender, even in the SEC, but as a team that I think can legitimately cement themselves in the tournament. If they win this game. If not, they still could be a tournament team, but I think this would go a long way. A home win against Kentucky that isn't going to hit its stride, in my opinion, until February. I view Kentucky as a Final Four contender, national championship contender. But with teams like this, you want to beat them early, because if you don't beat them early, you're not going to beat them later.
Is it fair to say that we still are kind of waiting for a validating win for Todd Golden and his era at Florida? Because you go back to last season, they had the Tennessee win, but they finished under 500. They were 16-17 on the season. This year, they're 10-3, finishing non-con 10-3 going into conference play. But their best wins are over Pitt, a double overtime win over a Michigan team that is not very good, we know now. Played Baylor really well, lost. Played Virginia really well, close, lost. Have the loss to Wake Forest. Like, this is the opportunity for them to, I think, validate how good they are. Because on paper, this is a borderline top 25 team. And they have looked like that at times, but haven't necessarily proven that with the results to this point.
Yeah, you put Florida next to Gonzaga right now. Gonzaga is obviously still in the top 25. You could argue that they shouldn't be. I would argue they shouldn't be, but their types of wins and losses this year are very much the same. Mm-hmm. Beat who you're supposed to beat. That's what Florida's become good at. They have not, as you said, they've had one win in the top 50 of KenPom through a season and a half. They've had 3 wins that I think are like 50 to 55, and then no other wins in the top 100, I'm pretty sure. They are a team that's looking to string together, maybe not 5 or 6 wins, but if they can get like 3 to 4 wins against those top teams, I'm talking, who in the SEC right now, Kentucky, Tennessee, if they can get a win against Auburn or Texas A&M or even like Mississippi State, I think would be like a validating win this year. That I think would cement Todd Golden. I have been on and off the Todd Golden train over the last couple of seasons. He is a very good game planner in terms of heading into a game. He knows the strengths and weaknesses of his opponent. He knows how to attack those given the personnel, very big into the analytics. I still have yet to see him properly adjust in games, and I think that's what hurts them. It's what's hurt his teams against the Gonzagas when he was in the WCC. It's what hurt his teams in the SEC and some of these close losses, right? These close losses against top talent. He goes in with a very specific, this is how we need to approach this game. And when the game goes out of whack, he loses those games. And when you're going up against the top programs, you're generally going up against the top coaches in the country, making adjustments. We have yet to see that. And I think this Kentucky game is going to be one of those ones where Florida is going to play well, maybe not jump out to a lead, but play close the first 10 minutes of this game. And Calipari, one of the best coaches in the country, is going to make adjustments and is going to be kind of punch, counter punch. And can Todd Golden adjust to those adjustments? Mm-hmm. That's what we're going to have to see. And not just against Calipari, but against Bruce Pearl, against Barnes. He's going to have to make these adjustments throughout the course of the season if Florida is going to continue to be a winning team, because they are right now. They're 10-3. Can he make those adjustments in SEC play, where we haven't really seen him win those games so far this season against the top teams? You mentioned 3-point loss to Virginia, 4-point loss to Baylor. He lost by 11 to a Wake Forest team, but that was on the road. But those two close losses, like if he had won one of those games, particularly the Baylor game, given what we've seen from Virginia recently, but if he had won that Baylor game, I think we would be talking about Florida in a completely different light right now. But he didn't.
I agree. From the Kentucky standpoint, this will be their second true road game of the season. I will argue it's their first, because the other one was Louisville, and the arena was packed with, it felt like at least more Kentucky fans than Louisville fans. We know Big Blue Nation travels well. Do you put any stock into that for Kentucky? Because this is a young Kentucky team still. They've passed every test so far, and we've seen guys like Rob Dillingham, DJ Wagner, Reed Shepherd, the kind of young guards you would expect to struggle with that. Really not. But I think this is a different beast than they've faced. Do you put any stock into that for this game for Kentucky?
Maybe a little bit. Look, I still think Antonio Reeves, Trey Mitchell are going to have to be the guys who kind of just bring this group together, right? Mm-hmm. They don't have to be the top scorers, but just bring this group together in a tough road environment. I think it's less about how they adjust to the road environment and how they adjust to the fact that their freshman guards are going to be going up against Walter Clayton, Will Richard, Zion Pullen, like very experienced guards who have been very good in the past, who are playing well this season. How do they adjust to playing consistently against talented and experienced players? They've won against good guards. But again, like you said, on the road, I think it's a little bit of a different beast. We'll see, because they obviously had the close loss against a Kansas team that I would argue is not as deep as Florida, more talented, sure, not as deep as Florida, but they beat Miami, who has a good set of guards. They beat North Carolina, who has a good set of guards. So they've won those games, but in a true road environment, it'll be interesting.
So who wins? Prediction time. Does Kentucky go on the road and pull it out with that, or does Florida get that win they need?
No, I think Kentucky wins. I'm not going to trust Todd Golden to win these games until he wins these games.
I'm with you.
And Kentucky's offense is just too good for me to overlook. They shoot the ball incredibly well. They don't turn the ball over. Like if this was a USC team where freshman guards were turning the ball over left and right, I'd have maybe a different opinion. All other things equal, but it's not. They don't turn the ball over. They shoot well. They play such well-oiled basketball,
right?
And they have the coaching advantage. So they have the talent advantage, the coaching advantage. The only thing Florida possibly has is the fact that they bring, senior Zion Pullen off the bench, who is one of the best playmakers in college basketball. Like their experience off the bench would work in Florida's favor, but I don't know. I think Kentucky is, you're starting to see them hit their stride, and you look at their stretch of games, right? I mean, they play a tough schedule to start SEC play, but I think they're looking to start off with a win.
Mm-hmm.
And I know Ken Pom has them as like a 1-point favorite in this game.
Yep.
I think it's going to be more in the 5 to 7 range. Like I just don't think you're going to, in the last 5 to 6 minutes of this game, really worry about Kentucky winning this game.
I think I'm with you. I think it's going to be a very entertaining game. Should be up and down. It strikes me as the kind of game, or I would expect the game script to be relatively back and forth throughout much of the first, let's say, 25 minutes. And at some point in the second half, there's going to be a Kentucky run, partially because of the adjustments Calipari makes that Golden doesn't, partially because of how explosive this Kentucky backcourt is. Like they're due to go for a big run every game. And I think it happens at a point where they're able to kind of keep Florida at bay down the stretch and win by a couple of baskets. So I'm with you. We're both expecting a Kentucky win here, but I think a win for Florida would be very big and potentially push the Gators back in the top 25. So we'll see what happens. But we'll be back on the Supers Media YouTube channel afterwards to break it all down for this game and everything else that happens across the country.